So yes, greetings, CSGOers and assorted esports fans, including you console people. We love you. No, nothing, no denigration whatsoever to you guys. Love you guys. And you're
Such a
Holden.
lie.
Such a lie. How you doing there, Holden?
PC gaming is always lies. Doing really well on our side. Always quite busy and just ready to get this conversation going. We've been trying to get this started for quite a while. I believe Xtremes actually left me out in one of the conversations. I was waiting around my PC and he just left me waiting.
Yeah, I actually put it in my calendar because I use Outlook calendars, which is probably very bad, but I'm on Office 365, so I'm using that, and I put it in there, and I put it in for a week later than it actually was. So he's waiting for me, and
Naughty.
I just don't show up. It was so terrible.
Yep.
And then
Console gamers on time again.
yeah, and I actually recently on a lot of social media platforms I've actually turned off notifications because I get so many. So I was just like, okay, well, I need to focus today. I'm turning off the notifications, and it happened to coincide with you just trying to get me on Twitter so desperately because I haven't shown up.
Don't worry, I get stood up a lot. Actually got stood up today again, so that's
Oh
just
wow,
terrible.
okay.
Yeah,
So you mean we could have
it's
done
one of
this
those things.
earlier, but you got stood up. You were too
Yeah,
busy with that.
yeah, pretty much, pretty much. Unfortunately, it's a little bit later at night, but maybe more secrets will come out then.
Yeah, well, we shall see. So, dear viewers, Mr. Holden is from the African Cyber Gaming League and from many other things. He is a console luminary, a denizen of the console wilderness.
Yeah, well, it wasn't always that way. I go back in the days of Unreal Tournament, played CS, Quake, and
Oh,
I've
wow.
pretty much been everywhere when it comes down
Competitive
to
shooters,
gaming.
yeah?
Yeah, well, not even just shooters. Just across the board. Take a look at Dungeon Keeper 1 days, StarCraft, Age of Empires. We can do this all day.
So you've been
But
around,
maybe
eh?
we, yeah, I've been around, been
You're,
around.
you're the village
Uh,
bicycle of esports.
Basically, two older brothers basically introduced me to all of it. So I kind of just try to beat them because that was the only equal playing field I could have. Because they just physically, they physically beat the shit out of me, to be honest. Because they could pair up against me. That's just how it worked.
Yeah, everybody knows with older siblings. Thankfully, I was the
Yep.
older sibling, yes.
Oh, you
So,
terrible person, you.
yeah, I'm a tyrant. Everybody knows it. So, and in line with my tyrant ways, I'm going to just totally direct this conversation.
Go
Probably
for it.
make horrible comments about consoles as well. Just because, again, it's what's expected. I need to play it to the stereotype that is expected, right?
Well, you got to go for it. So let's start this thing off. I guess we keep on going in this direction and changing back.
Well, yeah, let's start it off. And I think for viewers, what you guys, dear viewer, what you need to understand here is I do talk about CS, but I do also deal with a lot of other aspects of esports and other esports as well. Go back and look at some of the looking back videos, which seems like a weird sort of tear into the space time, continuing to say look back into looking back. But you may have to. I've actually spoken to some interesting people, and this particular one I'm super interested in because what ACGL get up to. Well, I was at Masters last year at on the Telcom stand at Rage. We were casting on the big stage. There's Red Eye and all of that wonderfulness. And every time something happened at the Mag Cup for ACGL, the Call of Duty Cup that was going on, they were so loud that across that entire space of the dome, we could hear them inside of a soundproof booth.
That's right. It was honestly an amazing event. It came together so well, and we're just so impressed with the support of the community overall, to be honest, and also just the backing of Activision of the event as well. It took, geez, the amount of work that goes behind the scenes of these events in terms of production and scaling things up. We are actually quite fortunate in the team that we managed to get around us at the time. So hopefully we'll be able to do that again this year. No promises being made to all of you trying to get hints.
But yeah, I mean, just my experience as a CS caster and being involved in PC gaming was that the console guys are just like off the chain excited about what's going on. And I also have to take some responsibility because my level of intensity in casting is somewhere between bowls and golf. So, I could see why the guys at that stage, at the Telcom stage, weren't too excited. But the guys at the Mag Cup, clearly you got them going. I mean, I saw some amazing clips as well where Benson was just like losing his shit. It was great.
He completely lost his mind during the tournament, and that's probably a big result of why people went so crazy. I mean, this guy just has this phenomenal talent to generate excitement. Not, I don't want to say out of nowhere, because obviously you need the gameplay to be able to do that. Otherwise, you'd just be a maniac screaming. But he just has a really great way of conveying that excitement. I mean, sometimes when I see a phenomenal play, like if you actually do go back to the clip, I'm not too sure if you want to link it down below, or maybe I'll drop it in the comments, of when Benson actually did go crazy. You just kind of hear me in the background screaming, "Oh my god! Oh my god! What just happened?" Because it was at that point it was beyond my powers to be able to describe what just happened on screen. It was really phenomenal event.
So we obviously leaped forward a little bit here, but I just wanted viewers to understand how cool what you guys do is, and I think what you guys do in the South African esports ecosystem, if we want to call it that, it's not really an ecosystem because yeah, things aren't sustainable as we were talking about. That's an ecosystem, but we'll talk about it as the esports circle of life and probable death. You guys are one of
Hopefully
the
not.
yeah, well, probable death
Hopefully
for
not.
some guys, but I mean, you guys are actually a great example of sustainability in the way you've set things up, and I think you guys, in terms of the way you're approaching things, I hope. Hey, my image has stopped. Is my image stuck? This is weird.
It seems to be stuck on my side as well.
Oh wow.
Seems like
Okay.
seems like you're pondering a very important thought on my screen
Oh
at the
really?
moment.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Let's hope it maybe shakes itself loose. Let me see if I can make it do so. I'll stop that and start again. Come on.
And go.
Come on. Come to life.
All right, everybody, enjoy the quick break while we get this started again. I guess is the 2 cents. I'm not too sure if you want to be able to do that.
I don't know. Let's see. Why is it absolutely tanked in such a horrible way? Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording. I'll just edit. For once, I'll actually edit. Look at this. And we're back, viewers. Everything's working somehow. I don't know what happened. It launched itself, but now my face is unstuck. It feels a lot better, which is an advantage not to have a stuck face.
Looking less like the pondering man and a little bit more active from that side. So yeah, good
Well,
to have you back.
Can you imagine? I mean, I could have been caught in like a compromising, like kind of thing as well. So it sort of worked out for me there. I had just had pondering contemplation as opposed to anything particularly embarrassing.
It's a good screenshot for a bit later. Hopefully, we can put that up when we actually tweet this out.
So, talking about contemplation, though, let's contemplate the origins of Holden. People know who you are, yeah.
The
Sort of.
origins of Holden. Well, I mean, I guess we're taking a look at a gaming standpoint, so let's not talk about
Yeah.
my mom and dad just yet.
No, we won't talk about that night, that fateful night, or any of that stuff.
You sound way too familiarized with that night. Where were you? No, so basically the gaming career started back Xbox forum days. So Xbox hyphen three, no, what was it? Hyphen 360.co.za. So I mean, we were playing a lot of games there, and I believe that was also the origins of Lazy Gamer, which became critical hit. So fun fact for everybody there. There was just a really nice budding community that also used to be quite competitive with one another. So Gears of War was one of our primaries, and just people weren't hosting tournaments. So started hosting a couple of wingman tournaments back in the day. And then one thing led to another, kept on hosting some tournaments, but I also participated in them, which is not a luxury I can afford anymore,
I used to do
unfortunately.
that too as a tournament organizer. It's hilarious when somebody's having a dispute with you and you're in
Yeah,
the same game.
yeah,
Love it.
it is quite terrible. I found myself, if anything, if there was a dispute, I'd just automatically disqualify myself, just because I don't want to be caught up in that nonsense. It actually is the exact same reason why I was also a clan owner, High Five Gaming, at some point,
Hmm.
and decided not to be involved with them anymore, just due to the fact that people might view it as a conflict of interest. Anyway,
Good
back to the
idea.
forum days. Then we went on to establish a company called Xbox Real, where we ran a couple of tournaments for a while. It was doing quite well. A lot of our partners were in Durban. That was quite exciting. That had a little bit of a collapse, and we want to do something a bit more broad with the PlayStation 3 community as well involved. The PlayStation 3 community also lived on a forum at the time, which I think became the SA Gamer side of things.
Oh
So
wow.
that's where SA Gamer forum I think the PlayStation forum turned into the SA Gamer forum. I could be slightly wrong here, so please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I think that's the concept of that. And then, funnily enough, Clint CS, he actually owns Vinco Gaming, put in a
Mhm.
post saying, check what Holden's doing on online side in terms of hosting tournaments. Let's put in some money and buy him a PlayStation, and hopefully he'll do the same for us. So ended up getting a PlayStation and hosting a couple of tournaments for them.
That's cool.
That's when Clan Connection came about, and we kept that going. Eventually went up to MWeb one day where Desmond Kurtz and Brad was. Told them about wanting to sponsor the High Five team at that point, and they were like, okay, we're not that interested. But then started talking to them about the Clan Connection and actually operating tournaments, which they bit into immediately. They thought it was a great concept. So joined up with MWeb with that to host, I believe, the first Clan Connection tournament, which was co-casted by myself and Grant Hines at the time. So we
Did he
did
have
that,
pink hair back
and
then?
then, yeah, no, he didn't. He was actually very human looking
Really?
at the
What was his
time,
original hair color?
and
I don't even remember it.
it's like it's actually probably a bit darker than my hair, so like
Oh wow.
brownish.
Well, I think a
Uh,
secret of the internet
yeah.
has just been revealed there.
Now all of these powers will return to us. I don't know. Anyway, so back to the MWeb situation. So I was there for a while, working with Brad and Des, and then Zombie Gamer was consistently involved as well as a guy called Glenn, which is the South African Xbox representative. He's also done so many events. Two Up Gamers, some of you Cape Town guys might know that. So we're all very much involved with one another. Zombie was very much the hardware type person, man on the ground, making sure everything operates. And then my side of it was tournament operation online and also the first casting. We did one of, it might have been, I don't know, I can't say with 100% certainty, but I think it was the first streamed console event ever in South Africa. I could be wrong, but that was quite a big moment for us. It was a massive community, and I actually took a little bit of a dive when Xbox One and PlayStation 4 came out. Um,
Hmm.
and from there, I guess it was Clan Connection. Then I got picked up by MWeb. MWeb wanted me as a tournament director, so I became that role, even though the name kind of subtly changed over time. And also became a content contributor for 4 years. So I was writing articles, and
I
then
remember that. I
actually,
enjoyed what you
yeah,
used to write. I did. It taught me
thank
about
you.
COD. I didn't want to know about COD, but I learned about it anyway because I read your articles.
Yeah, I did a whole tips and tricks series, which
Yeah, I like
unfortunately
that.
got, yeah, it eventually got pulled. I really, really loved doing that series. It was something I was quite vested in, but unfortunately that did get eventually pulled. Something about views. Damn views. They're so important.
What a shame.
um, so yeah, did that. And then I left MWeb in August of last year. But during that time, we were operating CSGO tournaments, Call of Duty, FIFA, across the board a lot. But what became quite prevalent was the MWeb Game Zone Master Series. So some of your CSGO guys might be aware of that.
I played in it
We
a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't think you qualified if I picked up from a previous chat that you
No.
had with Kyle.
No.
Ah,
Did not got smashed by bravado. Actually, it was a formative experience in eating shit.
but that's what I thought was quite special about the tournaments, if anything, is that at the time like the way DGL operated was of course with the league. So if you're a low tier team, you couldn't play against Bravado. So
Absolutely,
you couldn't play
that's
against
was the
one of these
beauty
higher
of
teams.
it. It's that exposure.
Yeah,
You just don't get it to the top teams in DGL.
it's twofold though, because some people saw Bravado's names and they were like, we're not going to enter this one. No thanks. Maybe the next one.
I think it's
So
in the
that
way you
happened.
approach it, man. Like as a
Yeah.
person, you got to look at it and go, like, as much as I might get my teeth kicked in, and see, I did. Like, there's a cute tooth. That's a bravado tooth. It must be, but
Jeez.
you know, yeah. Well,
Blame
the
Sam
boot
for
in the
that one.
face, but that experience, you look at that and you go back and as a team and you say, okay, well, why were they doing that to us? Let's go watch our demo. Let's understand why they are so much better than we are and what were they doing that we weren't doing. And you learn from that. And I mean, in the
Yeah.
space of a year, we improved tremendously to finishing pretty well at the finals and DGL and all of that. But then there's all these teams who just go, well, we see Bravado's name on the team sheet. We don't want to play because we know we're going to lose. Well, how are you going to learn how terrible you actually are and how you should improve without playing them?
Well, you guys clearly had the mature response to that, whereas it's too easy to jump on social media onto a Facebook group or just a group chat amongst your friends to say, you know what, those guys are just a bunch of idiots. We'll beat them next time and put in no effort. It seems that happens a lot actually, but I like your guys' approach to it in terms of changing your angle and seeing exactly what you did wrong.
Well,
So not a lot of teams actually do that these days. To be honest, it's quite a sad fact.
oh yeah, well I'm old, so maybe I'm from a different generation. Yeah, back in my day, kind of thing. I don't know, maybe.
Back in my day, we used to watch VODs and take care of what we did.
Well, I do declare,
uh,
Mr. Holden.
I'll show it. Okay, once again, terrible track leading
Yeah,
to some weird American
just
conversation
just by the way,
back in Tennessee.
we seem to have some connectivity issues occasionally. So Skype keeps popping up a message on your face saying that we have a bad internet connection. However, it is not dropping, which is quite funny. So
Okay,
I do apologize, viewers, for the Skype on Holden's face, but so be
I
it.
should be apologizing too. I guess so. Okay, I'm gonna just bring this all the way back. All right,
Please
so
do.
was at MWeb ACGL. Weirdly enough, we are operating with the guys at Arena, so that was Luca as well as Kyle. In terms of operating the CS:GO, we felt that listen, this isn't our field of expertise. If we can bring in some kind of professionals on that side or people that have operated this before, especially since the conversation revolving around Luca as well as Kyle. Kyle was obviously within MWeb at that point, so this all became a little bit more streamlined, and we actually had to form ACGL because MWeb, geez, I might be stepping on toes here. I doubt it though. Weren't prepared to have a contract between two different companies. They would rather just have it under one organization. So that's basically ACGL became the holding company both for ourselves just to be able to money would flow in there in terms of operating costs of the tournament, and then that would get split between whoever got what assigned portion. So that's
Wow.
how ACGL was essentially created. Um, and then eventually we decided to leave. Well, I left MWeb and Clint almost left MWeb at the same time. We loved working together. We thought that our work ethic was quite well aligned. You'll see us, I mean, take any EGE Expo, for example, especially Clint. Especially Clint.
Mhm.
He is there as the earliest person and he's the last one to leave, no matter what. Doesn't matter if there's other people working. It's just like he's just got the most phenomenal work ethic, and it's kind of like I feel like when he's around, I've got to stick around too, to be honest. And
The
I
guilt.
can't let this 40-something-year-old, he'll probably hate me saying that,
Oh.
lifting boxes and doing the hard work that he really does. So whenever I get an opportunity to give my man Clint a shout out, I need to. So shout out to you, Clint. I'm sure you'll be able to join us for the next one. But yeah, so since then we've
That'd
been
be great.
operating ACGL. We've got went through a little bit of a facelift in terms of changing around our site. So our new site has been operating for around about a month and a bit. Um, and yeah, we're very, very happy with our progress thus far. I mean, taking a look at just ACGL since we left in August of last year, we've operated over 128 tournaments to date. That being online, we actually haven't added any of the LAN tournaments to that, which is just a point of trying to figure out exactly how many we have done. Especially Clint, once again, he's the big time LAN operator. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's where we are at this point. And as you can probably tell through our tournaments, our kind of goal at the moment is to highlight communities that don't get enough attention and give them an opportunity to play. And yeah, we're just kind of really happy doing that and trying to keep this thing growing in a way that makes sense to us. Might not make sense to anybody else, but at least it makes sense to us at this point.
Well, I think you guys are doing a sterling job. Again, my awareness of what you guys are doing. Again, I'm a CS:GO guy, so everybody who's watching this channel, who subscribes to this channel, probably knows that. Those who are watching because of Holden, you wouldn't know anything about me, and that's fine. But CS:GO is a pretty insular sort of community, and the exposure that we get to what other esports are up to is actually pretty low unless you go looking for it. And in my case, I was actually going looking for it, so I was seeing what you guys were up to, and it's really interesting to see with the state that CS is in at the moment, where there's just so much money. I mean, we're talking what, 2 million rand ESL tournament, the world's biggest esports company, and well, the biggest esports company in the Western world, objectively speaking, and numbers. We're not talking about viewership or whatever, but then we've got what, OCS, the new Orin thing you were just talking about, Luca. It's at 1.7 million rand. We've got what, Middle State Samsung thing that just happened for 1 million rand. We've got Telkom with their 1.5, although that's spread across Dota and what, FIFA as well, which is interesting. So there's a little bit of console action happening there, but there's all this money in Counter Strike, so you could very easily, as a Counter Strike fan or a player or a commentator or whatever you are, look at it and go, like, there's nothing else in the universe that matters but Counter Strike, because everybody's throwing their money into the bottomless pit that is Counter Strike and pouring petrol on it. So but this is what we're doing at the moment. And I mean, you guys are basically operating in comparison on almost like a shoestring budget in comparison in terms of prize pools. I'm not talking about
what's a shoestring?
Well, you don't have 10 million rand knocking about,
we don't even have the shoestring.
I know.
We don't have the shoestring, unfortunately, at this point.
But you guys do such great quality with objectively much lower prize pools, yet your viewership is so similar to what these big money Counter Strike and Dota tournaments are. Why is that? What is the secret, do you think, that to the console viewership that you have, the loyalty of console fans, the Call of Duty fans, whether it's fighting games, whether it's FIFA, whatever it is, you seem to have that loyalty?
Well, with the console community, it is a community that literally, it's the one only community that I can say I've been with in terms of from the beginning to the end. So there is almost a big loyalty in terms of trying to raise them. It's essentially our little plant that we're trying to grow and keep it growing. And it's had its trials and tribulations. But if it comes down to viewership, you know what? I feel like there's a little bit of a stigma in this country when it comes down to CS:GO, and it's viewed as, yes, it's got this amazing spectacle in terms of the amount of viewership, which I feel is falsified in a lot of ways.
I'd agree with you.
And I'd have to say that is probably down to two things. And probably one thing if you consider it, and it came down to that whole betting phase where Dota and CS were pushed extraordinarily far in terms of the amount of viewership that they were getting.
Because of betting, yeah.
And yeah, exactly. And people were more interested in our scene because of that. Now, if that didn't last, which it didn't, how are people still going to connect to it? There's no reason for them to connect. They can go watch their European games, because it was a largely European or North American, depending on which way you want to look at it. That was a big audience. The local audience does not reach those numbers. So what are we looking at then? We are looking at Call of Duty. It's got a big community by its nature. People who aren't even involved in competitive buy Call of Duty games almost every year. Year on year, it's one of the best-selling games. It outdoes Battlefield. Battlefield also has a really, really good community. It's just a problem. We can't really connect to them at the moment due to server issues. But once again, just leaning back on the community side, what are we talking about in terms of viewership? It's what, 150, pushing up to 300. That really is pretty much a consistent for a lot of communities at this point already. I've been paying quite close attention to Rocket League, for example, at the moment. They're getting decent numbers on some of their streams as well. So, I mean, it's not like CS:GO and Dota are well ahead in terms of viewership. The one thing that they are ahead of is prize money at the moment. And I think, yes, there are more players, but I don't see it translating into viewership at this point. It really isn't. But it's really about how passionate and how people feel about those role players within the community. And I'll be self-admitting of this at the moment. In terms of Call of Duty this year, we haven't done nearly as much as we would have liked to. It's come down to a lot of changes. And let me just tell you one thing: trying to operate your own business as an esports entity with no funding, it's not an easy task. It's really a grind, and I can understand why Clint doesn't have hair at this point, and I'm just waiting
Well,
for my turn.
I'm already there, bro. What do you think the hat's for?
Well, there we go. I might be wearing my beanie soon.
Well, I mean, originally it was a sharp fashion statement,
Oh, okay.
but over time it fused to my head and now I can't get it off.
Okay, and it's been locked down by those earphones as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, have you ever seen me not wearing headphones? Yeah, yeah.
No, well, to be honest, I haven't.
Yeah,
I
well,
haven't, to be honest.
well, that's funny. In esports broadcasts, we always wear headsets. We don't go. You usually go with the little lapel or little earpiece mics or anything like that. But, yep. That aside, we were talking about funding. I noticed
Yeah,
you also have a nice headset there, and we were just talking about headsets. Tell us a bit about
I do.
Astro.
I have a fantastic headset. So actually, one cool, funny story. Beginning of last year, Cape Town Rage, what some people might call a fail, what some other people might say was spectacular. We also had a lovely little event there. It was called the Astro Gaming Cup, where we ran a tournament. Actually, very, very happy with that event. It kind of brought to essence of what we could do with the shoestring budget, even though there was hardly no money investment into that. There was some, came directly from Astro. And at the time, they were very happy with what we did. And I have been for a while, um, the pretty much sole caster for Call of Duty. I've been trying to get more people involved. CS, which is actually the owner of Vinco Gaming, or part owner of Vinco Gaming, brought in some players as well over the years, but that's also another problem that we can always go into, is not enough casters and not enough people actually being able to improve themselves as casters in the country. But we won't go into that just yet. So Astro saw that as an opportunity and then picked up myself as a brand ambassador. So I'm rocking these lovely, lovely little Astro headsets, and been very happy with the brand. It's been a brand that's been quite synonymous with console gaming, just because
Mm.
there's always been a problem with uh, players being able to have a conversation to one another when they're sitting next to one another with their headsets. There's no daisy chain. But Astro were one of the first brands to ever bring in a LAN component for their headsets, so everybody could chat on the same channel using the mix amps, and that's what essentially brought their value into the competitive scene and made them such a well-known brand amongst the console gamers.
Yeah, well, they are great headphones. Of course, I'm rocking the Audio Technicas, but that's my vibe. Keep an
To
eye.
each their own, to each their own.
Yeah, yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I think they are great, and PC gamers I think are probably a little bit less aware of Astro than they should be sometimes. But their PC headsets are pretty cool too. So guys, check
Yeah,
them out if you in the market for a headset. Also check out Audio Technica. I like them too. But I also have some association with them, so that's me.
shameless plugs.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
there we go.
plugs. But now something I'd like to rewind back to what we were just talking about things like viewership and whatever in that sort of sphere. Now, I mean, you probably know I've been working for ESL in their Africa Championship, which is so far only South Africa. But what to me is quite interesting about what they're doing when we're talking about whether we're growing viewership or not, regardless of esport, is they're planning the second season to be North Africa, and then the finals are basically at Rage, and it's North Africa versus South Africa, which is
Yeah,
to me a really interesting component, because then what it essentially does is it exposes a South African audience and a North African audience to each other's teams and to each other,
yeah,
and that's something I think in South African esports, because we're so isolated, we kind of don't always have, particularly the PC esports, because ping is such a difficult component of first person shooters. I mean, that's also true for console as well, but obviously things like Call of Duty, not having dedicated servers, things like that, and using peering at times means that it works a little differently. But the
yeah,
fact that we're not able to compete with the overseas guys so regularly, I think also kind of limits our audience to a degree, because it feels like there's this sort of cap on where our players can get to. And I think ESL is doing a great thing with this. They're doing it with Hearthstone as well. It's actually happening now. Well, I mean, not this very second, but at this sort of period in history where it's North Africa versus South Africa. And obviously, in a card game,
hmm
ping doesn't matter. So now, if we bring it over to the console aspect, you guys are also limited by ping as well. And we were mentioning earlier, some games don't have local servers, and that makes it difficult, like a Rocket League or the Battlefield stuff until recently and whatever. Do you feel that if in console gaming there was something similar, like an African tournament as opposed to a South African tournament, because you guys are called the African Cyber Gaming League, do you think that would actually boost viewership, boost interest in it, because it's an international competition as opposed to just a South African competition?
Absolutely. I wouldn't guarantee it.
Sorry,
But
Will's
one thing
longest
is,
question there, by the way. But
no, 100%.
sorry.
Um, like I said, I think it boosts the opportunity for more viewership. But will it definitely boost viewership? That's questionable.
Who knows?
Um,
So I'm
yeah,
asking you.
exactly. It's one of those things in terms of opportunity to be able to get more viewers. It's always going to be able to do that, and that's where these events highlight themselves. Um, but at the same kind of task, we still have to keep that growing. And at this point, it came back to a conversation we actually had before we went live, is that esports, in terms of viewership directly, it doesn't exist that well in South Africa. It is not a competition that we're going to suddenly see 1,500 to 10,000 people just jumping in. It really needs these things both to expand the audience, and that's where maybe the African component is quite important. More research obviously needs to be done, and yes, African Cyber Gaming League is called that for a reason. So don't worry. We've also, actually, interestingly enough, we actually had a couple of players from, I think there was one from Botswana that participated in our Mag Cup. So we do have some other countries that do participate. We like to open up our tournaments across the board to the sub-Saharan African countries if possible. Interesting fact. But yeah, this is all about trying to grow the audience at its base and introduce more people to competitive gaming. And at the moment, it's not there in terms of viewership, to put it quite simply. It needs to be thrust into the audience. So with the likes of Quesi, for example, they've got a great opportunity to push that in front of an audience that exists on their networks and on their, as I understand, their
Satellite
the
viewers and all of
television,
that.
yeah, the satellite viewers, and the same kind of thing is arguably to be said with brands like SuperSport as well. I mean,
And the old Ginks
the
thing, yeah.
key,
Jinx, sorry.
yeah, Ginks,
Jinx.
and
It's
the
like
key
VS and
concept.
Verse and all of that, eh?
Well, that's quite interesting as well. It's something we can bring up a bit later in terms of an Injustice tournament. The finals will be held at, I believe, it's VS Fighting. So when DGL changed the name, we were like, "What is going on here? Did you just? How did this happen?" But so yeah, just in terms of viewership, we're not there yet, and any more opportunities that we can have to expand to other areas to bring more viewership in, I think there's two thumbs up for that.
So, in terms of maybe reaching to the non gamers, like a lot of people, like we were talking about this before as well. There was a tournament recently where there was some criticism of the broadcast components of it and the style of it, and people, the way they sort of quantified what they did was based on, we're trying to reach a non esports audience. We're trying to bring in new people. Uh,
Okay.
I mean that's all fine. That's power to them to do that. But how do we actually reach that kind of audience? Because I mean, in their case, yeah, maybe they did find a few non esports viewers, but the majority probably were people who were interested in the particular esport. But how are the average Joe going to connect with something like Call of Duty? Or I mean, FIFA is the obvious one. You can connect with that because you're a football fan and everybody's a football fan. But
hmm
let's use Call of Duty as the example. I mean, how do you see like an average middle class South African? I'm not going to say an average South African because we live in a poor country, and this is the truth. An average South African doesn't have any money, unfortunately. But a middle class person, how are we reaching them with something like Call of Duty?
That's a tough question in itself. At the moment, this community is very much a need to know basis. Everyone that knows something will know it just because of they're involved with esports and they're connected. In terms of getting more people connected, it's one of those things where I believe more groundwork is needed. Actually, bringing these people to events, shoving it in their faces, and this is where expos like Rage, I think, are great. Expos like EGE, because they are bringing people that not necessarily would be interested in esports, but they would be interested in gaming just
Yeah,
generally. they don't know about these opportunities. And I'd go far as to say, you know what? I think what's going to be quite important for us, and this is just an example, is this Injustice tournament when we've got those finals. It's Jack Parra and Foko Felicika are going to be playing there,
That is
and that's
kick-ass.
essentially what's drawing that's essentially what's drawing people in. But I can guarantee you that almost half those people or more will not know about what esports is, even though it's probably a very middle class audience, like you said. It does give them opportunity to do that, and these kind of things take time. I mean, Supersport is probably the biggest contributing factor to that, and at the moment there's no local tie-in. It doesn't say join ACGL, join VS Gaming. It doesn't say that, so it's very difficult to tie yourself to that unless you also have funding. I mean, we've got a hell's hope sometime. If I think about it in terms of trying to just get a join the ACGL tournament on Supersport, that's quite tricky in itself. You have to figure out other ways to be able to get in front of people, and it's almost grab people by the collar and pull them in is the best way to pull them in at this point, and hope that their influential circles are big enough to bring their friends in too. So I think a lot more groundwork is needed in terms of being able to get more people in. And we still got to think about bringing the greater audience of South Africa as well. I mean, we just basically said it. More than half of South Africa can't afford to be in esports. Yeah, I'd probably say people that are in esports can't afford to be in
Oh yeah,
esports
I
at
mean
this
we know
point.
that. So, I mean the people who
Um,
work in esports can't afford to work in
yeah.
esports, But it's
So,
interesting though what you mentioned there about the point of entry. Like I feel the point of entry to console is obviously a lot cheaper than buying a 144 hertz screen and a fast PC to play Counter Strike, the game that I play, and cast. So you know giving that access, it just means the console access is cheaper. The point of entry is less expensive. It's
yeah.
still for people who actually have some money, because I mean, what a 5,000 rand console you can't buy if you're only earning 8,000 rand a month or something.
Yeah.
It'll take you a very long time to get to that point. But and I mean, let's face it, the amount of people that earn that even in South Africa is it's a very skewed society we live in. But I think where you guys have a great advantage over us PC master race types, is as we like to call ourselves, but of course we're actually just plebs. But if you see the thing about it is confidence is silent, insecurities are quite loud, and the PC master race keeps reaffirming that. So that probably says something. But
Yeah.
I'm just wrecking my own people here. But anyway, I'm
Shame.
I'm digressing. But what I'm saying is the entry into consoles is a lot cheaper. So I think your opportunity to grab more people is greater than in the PC community. And
Yeah.
I think what is interesting about South African sports lovers in general, if you look at sports like rugby or soccer or whatever, like stadium attendances are going down and have been steadily for the past few years. And I think that whole sort of culture and of convenience thing is coming into South African society, that I'd rather watch it on TV than go
Yep.
there and have some dude spill beer on me and some kid shout in my ear at like point blank range
Hmm.
about something that isn't actually happening right now. I mean, we've been there, but gaming has it is that thing that you can do from home. It is that thing you can participate in a tournament from home at times. Somehow we need to figure out how to align the way people think in terms of I'm going to enjoy my sport from home, and hey, I can actually participate in this, because that's the great thing about gaming.
Hmm.
You can be a fan, you can watch it, but you can also do it. Like who
Yeah.
could perform on the top level in any other sport with 2 years practice?
Yeah.
It's not
A-
possible.
and and you can tune into the best players almost every single day, just practicing away and get solid tips from them. Or there's so much access to it. You just have to be introduced to it and actually be fortunate enough to, or privileged enough to be able to connect to it. Uh, it's definitely a weird stage. South Africa is a very different nation in terms of esports compared to Europe, to North America, to hell, even South America have opportunities that we don't, just based on the fact that they're so close to North America. It's that they can compete against certain high individuals and get their ranking. We know as soon as there's a bigger pool of combatants, that you'll get more competitors as well. South Africa is in a weird position. We're far segmented from everybody else. We're playing 160 millisecond at best if we connect into Europe. Our pool of competitors, you'll see George every Friday playing Call of Duty. It's the same people that you'll see consistently. But like I think it's might sound a bit cliche, is that we are African and we need an African solution to African problems because we are different from everybody else. We need to start thinking about a bit more out of the box. And what is quite evident this year is that we think we're bigger than we are.
Yeah.
So we need to start thinking about how we can grow this pool. Um, and it's difficult. I mean, there's so much bureaucracy involved in esports. You'd be quite surprised behind the scenes how these things operate.
Mm.
But yeah, so it really, there's so much room to still grow. And that's the worst thing. I actually saw. I think it was about the Intel Masters.
Until
It was
Extreme
a
Masters.
documentary. Yeah, the documentary in terms of esports, and I think we all work or we all play. It's some kind of play on words on that. Um, and just seeing Africa completely left out of that was highlights one opportunity within Africa, and also highlights the express concern that we're not involved. I mean, people keep on saying that esports is a world phenomenon, but Africa's like, hey guys,
What
can
about
we please
us?
be a
Pick
part of it
me.
too?
Pick me. Pick me.
But there's a reason why we're not a part of it right now, to be honest, and that's because we're still developing. We're still developmenting. I was about to say. Thank goodness I corrected myself before that happened. We're still developing, and we still building that player base, and all of these kind of things help in their own way. But at the moment, it's four people or five people or six people pulling a piece of string in their one direction, and it's not doing much to grow the general population of people that are possibly going to become gamers and actually be the ones who actually enjoy professional gaming careers. I still think we're a while away from that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think we're definitely. I mean, people like to say, "Oh, we're a couple of years behind Europe or whatever," but no, we're not. We're like a decade behind in terms of where we're at right now, if not more. Because I mean, you look at again, Counter Strike's a game that has a long history. We're talking about things like CGS and all these tournaments that happened more than 10 years ago that were world championships that, of course, Africa didn't participate in, and had large prize pools back then before the financial crash in 2008, 2009, when things sort of
Hmm.
stopped, and then it's built up again. But we've never even gotten to that point yet. So
Well, this is where it comes down into we have the ability to fast track that. I'd agree with you if we keep going the same route that we're going in a lot of ways. Yes, 10 years is maybe when we
I mean, to
we
right
don't
now, I
we don't
don't
even
mean where
catch
we
up.
where we're
Yeah.
going to.
I still think there's ways to fast track it, but that really comes down to fast tracking growth. And we all know that growth is not in the audience that lives at the moment, it's in the greater audience of the populace and exposing more people to that. So
Absolutely.
we'll
Well,
see.
we didn't actually plan to talk about this, by the way, dear
No.
viewers, but I just felt, in my heart, had to bring it out, man. I do think I want to bring you into a more sort of roundtable discussion at some point where we actually talk about kind of cooperation in esports and trying to grow it together, sort of thing. Because exactly as you say, it's got this crazy sort of politics thing going on. And myself, I've worked for a couple of the different entities as well, and the amounts of, well, you can't work for this guy because this, and you can't talk to these guys because of this, and it's very strange, and it's very incestuous and very bureaucratic. And I do feel in South Africa we're a small community. We need to work together, man.
Yeah, well, even just leaning on in terms of mistakes across the board, people are naive to think that mistakes aren't going to happen. Also, when it comes down to running events and all that kind of jazz, mistakes happen in conversations, mistakes happen across the board. But I feel that there's an air of you make a mistake, then you just get slaughtered by the rest of the community for that mistake. At this point, I feel it's very negative in that, and it almost needs the people themselves to be able to stand back and just be bigger than that. It's difficult, believe me. It's really tricky when you pour in your heart and your soul into these things, and when something does go wrong, and you just look at it's just and you just get slaughtered from everywhere. Twitch is hitting you. You're getting comments from the other organizations that you're not necessarily doing this well. You hear this from this other person, and there's just this whole air of, listen, it's okay to make. This is not the era of things at the moment, but it is okay to make mistakes across the board. And I think we need to be a little bit more calm in trying to fast track ourselves. And there's still a lot of learning that needs to be done in this country in terms of doing things right.
Yeah.
And hell, just advertising things. I mean, stream schedules is stuff that needs to come out a little bit better. We need.
Universal
There's so
issue
many
there,
room.
man.
Yeah, yeah, dude. There's so many little problems that need to get fixed. And since this has become competitive, especially within the past 2 years, I have to stress on that point. It's people won't give other people criticism because it is competitive and it is against their personal best interest to give that fair criticism. And that sucks. That really, really, really sucks.
I
Just
agree.
based on the fact that this community, it's still way too young to be able to to have this competition really stagnate growth. And that's actually what it's doing. It's really causing more problems for people than it is helping. And at the same time, it, there's just there's a lot of problems, and I feel sometimes it's against the betterment of the community overall. And yeah, so we'll see where this goes. Hopefully, there's the rainbow at the end of it before I go into unhappy zone of we should all work together in rainbows and it will all be perfect. Shucks.
Oh, shucks.
But yeah, yeah, exactly. Hopefully one day we'll reach that point and we'll go and we'll all sit in a room together because we've all had our parts to play in esports and give each other a pat on the back for the work that has been accomplished. But at the moment, we've got to get the knives out of back sometimes at points, and just people giving to each other too much shit.
I agree. Well, I mean, I'll iterate what I've iterated many times. I'll work for anybody who pays me, and I'll love them for it. So, you know what? We
Fair
can all
enough.
be friends. Throw me the dollar bill, and I'll be your
Yeah.
friend. Hey, I'll come
Yeah.
cast some card, man.
And you can contact the cheap. Actually, I don't know what your rates are, but I was just about to compare you
I'm
to a
very
prostitute
expensive.
for
Sorry.
esports.
Remember,
I'll
I'm
be
like
your friend
raining
for
in those
tonight
dollar
if you just
bills.
pay me.
It's Counter Strike, bro. I'm just raining in money.
Wow.
It's
But yeah,
crazy
well,
though.
that's the one thing I'm really happy about, though. If there's one thing that I'm really impressed about, it's not necessarily the prize money itself; it's the players that are getting paid, and
Yeah.
that's cool. That's
But we
really
need that
cool.
across the board, though. I mean, we need that in COD and
Yeah,
in FIFA and in
there
Injustice
are
and
some
Mortal Kombat and whatever, you know?
there are some phenomenal gamers out there, and I mean, this is what's killing me. You see these guys that are so good, and then they've got nowhere to go. And like I explained to you before the show, that's what happened to me in terms of competitive gaming, is that there was nowhere to go. So I started hosting tournaments so I could have something to show for the skills that I had at the time. And then that led into, okay, now I need to also shoutcast so I can't play. And then, okay, but now I need to host this tournament and shoutcast and also make sure that the admins are sorted out.
Been there,
So
been there.
yeah. So essentially, esports from my side has been born out of frustration of hitting that wall and consistently hitting that wall and just trying. Sometimes you might say it's successful, sometimes you might not say it's successful, but trying to raise that bar a little bit at least year on year. I mean, that's where Mag Cup was such a special moment for us in saying like, wow, we finally did something that is, I'm not going to say straight away the international level, but in a lot of ways it was. Um, we are very, very happy with what we achieved there, and that for ourselves, it's not necessarily. Hell, I'll be quite frank, we got hardly nothing out of that. But just in terms of what we did for our community that we stuck with for the past 7 years to make something happen, that was really, really special. Especially bringing in Benson as well. It was, I don't know. I love that event. Really love that event.
Yeah, well, I mean,
But we've got more. Is hopefully.
Yeah, we played in with that event, of course, which is
Yeah.
great. But I just look at it as such a amazing sort of touchstone for me, where it made me realize, like, I keep seeing things on Zombie Gamer and MWeb about what you guys are doing, ACGL, and then I actually experience what you guys are about right next to the guys who are saying, okay, well, we're giving R1 million away. You guys weren't doing that, but the enthusiasm of the support, the fervor of the fans was just amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's just like,
But I mean, that really comes from the base all the way to the top where it eventually reaches the fans, is that we're surrounded ourselves by passionate people that do do a lot of work for nothing. And this is probably the point where I have to give a shout out to our what we like to call the ACGL family. You can head over to acgl.co.za, go down to the community tab and visit ACGL family. But honestly, those are the people that put in the grind. They admin tournaments every single night from the online side. They are the first ones there to pick up boxes, to really make the moves happen. Hell, our production team, big shout out to them as well, BTTL. They basically did the event for artists because they love esports. Um, and that's something special. And we've somehow been so lucky in surrounding ourselves with these passionate people that really want to work hard because they believe. I think they believe in our ethos and the way we're trying to operate things at the moment. And like once again, every time we can try give something back, even if it's a little bit of credit on your YouTube video, they do appreciate it. And they do appreciate the shout outs. And those are the people that don't receive enough thanks, that really need the attention sometimes. And it's kind of heart wrenching to see when they don't get enough credit as they need to.
yeah, I'd agree with that. I think in any esport, there's a lot of unsung heroes, but what I
Yeah.
do like is that family tab on your site, because it's like this huge list of people. Like, guys, go have a look at it. It's really everybody that's involved. I mean, I'm surprised actually that you don't have the tea lady in there, and you know, I kid, of course, but
Everybody is everybody.
it's amazing to see how many people are involved, because I've worked on a few events locally in my relatively short career in esports, and what's always amazed me about it is how few people usually make something that looks amazing, not always, but often amazing on a stream, actually happen. It's like quite a small crew of people, and you would, I mean, you've probably done the same thing where it's like 5 people or 4 people or something making this whole thing happen. But it
Yep.
is also great that you've got this sort of pool of people that are helping you, because honestly, I've not seen that really in any of the organizations in Counter Strike, where if it's whatever organization, it's usually a small amount of people doing it, and that's it, and there's nobody else, and nobody's contributing in any other way. Usually, it's very insular, and as you say, often quite there's the bureaucracy and the and all the intrigue and all of that. So I think people are quite insular in it, and it's just nice to see. To me, what it says, if I look at your page, is that you guys are open in the way that you're approaching things, and you're a little bit more transparent than what the other guys are doing. You're a family. It's like it says family, and it's
Yeah.
true, because
Yeah, we are. We
the
are.
other guys. I
Big
mean,
time.
honestly, go to what any of the other organizations in PC gaming and try to figure out who the team is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So,
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't want to compare ourselves to other people. It's kind of just the way we've been operating the whole time, and we know that. Listen, Clinton and I, we pretty much the faces of these things a lot of the time. But without the other guys, we'd be nothing. We wouldn't have a website. We would not be running tournaments. We would not have pretty much anything to be working off. We'd have probably I don't know, a tournament bracket or maybe a challenge bracket at this point, and tweeting stuff on
challenge.
Twitter. Yeah, come join us in this tournament. But yeah, it's really stepped up, and we're really happy with what we've achieved so far. Leading on to something that we're also very excited about is, of course, the Injustice tournament,
You knew where I
which
was
will kick.
going. What a
Yeah,
guy.
we'll be kicking off this Sunday, the first heat, and I am genuinely very, 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 very excited for this competition. Um, we've got 4 online heats, and then we're going to get the top 16 players into another online final. top 4 players are going to get flown up, all expenses paid, to Pretoria, to a concert with Jack Parra and
Well,
Falk
wait.
car.
We just got to stop
Yeah,
there. All expenses paid to Pretoria. How many times has that ever been said in history?
there we go. Well, it just depends where they're from. Hell, the guy might be like live next to the venue and he'll get an all expense. Or no, I was actually going to bite my tongue. I was going to say they're going to get a limo right there,
And
but
then you're like,
we'll
oh
see what
wait,
we
hang
can
on.
get them. Oh wait, this is not up to me, Nick. Shut your mouth.
See, but what you just did as a Cape Town person is to make the equivalency of saying you're going to get an all expenses paid trip to Kraaifontein.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah,
exact same thing. But that should be a really special event in itself, and then of course the winner's going to get 60k and also go over to the VS fighting tournament in Birmingham to fight against some of the best fighters in South Africa. No, not South Africa, in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do apologize. It
In
is
the
late.
world.
In the world of esports. It's in the game. I just felt like saying that. I don't know why. But crossing back to that tournament, yeah, we've got some phenomenal fighters. I actually did an interview with one of the. It probably will be up by the time you release this. One of the winners actually the winner of the MK tournament that happened 2 years ago. I believe it was run by the guys from Nav at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're gonna have a chat with him, and it sounds like everybody is very, very excited. Completely online in terms of qualifiers, which is a bit. It's not ideal for some of the fighters, but I feel the way that we're running at the moment, we will get the best fighters out of this competition. So,
Well, that's good.
yeah, we're genuinely very excited. We've got, I think, 75 entries at this point, hoping to get around about 90 for
Wow.
for the heat one. So yeah, should be good.
That's pretty rad, man.
Looking forward.
So you got Jack Parra and Falk Polisicar. Will Jack Parra be selling his own personal brand of whiskey there? I mean, brandy.
Well, I'll be sure that as I understand the timelines at this point, we will be having the event before the concert. So just before, so like almost like the opening curtain act to the show. So hopefully, once the show's done, from our side, we can sit back and relax and enjoy some of Jack Parra's brandy.
Fantastic.
Quite sweet.
Yeah,
Top bottles, quite.
I think that's a really cool and unique concept, man. So best of luck with that tournament, and I really hope people show up and support it big time.
Yeah, I can't claim the concept. That's thanks to the most powerful woman in South African gaming. She's been titled as. That's Miss Renelle from. I don't know which title I'm going to be able to give her, but I'll just give her the title. Yeah, I will go with that one. But yeah, so she'll take credit for that concept. And as soon as Clint and I heard it, we were like, please, can we do this, please? Because Clint, as some of you may know, he is a big time metalhead as well as a rockhead, and he loves his live bands. So yeah, he's very keen for that event as well. We're genuinely very, very excited. I don't know how many times I can say that, but it's going to be a really good one. And there'll be more fun details that get announced closer to the time that we'll be keeping you all updated with.
Fantastic. Well, I think I'm going then. It sounds great. I'm coming.
Yeah, please do come. I'd actually love to see the whole gaming community side of things there. Lean on me if you need an invite. I'll see what magic I can work.
I thought you were going to start singing there.
No. Get out of here. This is not the concert you came.
On me.
Okay. Cheers, everybody. It's been a good stream. Been a good video.
It's
next time.
It's breaking down, but yeah, I think it's been a great chat, man. I really appreciate your time. I'll make sure I fix this video so when people watch it, they will enjoy it. So people who are watching it, if you're still with us, if I didn't bore you by asking the world's longest question ever conceived and uttered by a human, I did that. If you're still here, I really appreciate you being here, and I really appreciate you being here, Mr. Holden.
Thank you for having me. Just a quick final hint that I'm going to just give up to everybody is, especially the guys from COD, don't stop. That's all I'm saying.
Big things coming. Oh.
Okay. All right. That's going to be it from my side, I guess.
Yeah, fantastic.
Hopefully everybody enjoyed the chat, and we'll hopefully also get Clinton for the round table. The man doesn't like to be in front of a camera most of the time, but we'll bring him in.
Hey, if a bald guy like me can be on camera, then a bald guy like him can be on camera. But anyway, yeah. So thank you, viewers, for joining us. This has been Looking Back with Holden of ACGL. Go check him out on Twitter, and show the console community some love, because we surely love you. X out.
Yep.